Hey folks, welcome to the show on this not very nice week, but hopefully we can at least end it on a superficially good note with a fun stream tonight. So there's the TikTok Shives from Dana. I expected that was coming. Checking to see if I had any last second patron and member questions as always. Um, and I'm good. I'm good. Everything is all set to go. So, speaking of that, as always, I will be answering questions that were submitted ahead of time by my patrons and channel members first. So, if you are with us in the live chat right now and you have something you want to ask me, something you want me to talk about, something you want me to pay attention to, especially if it's going to be a super chat, something generous like that, if possible, please hold on to it until I get through the patron and member questions, because once I answer all of those, I will turn my full attention to the live chat for the remainder of the stream. So here we go. Oh, and by the way, I just saw a question, a super chat from Kirok. He says, by the way, room, but I presume it is also implicitly addressed to me as well. What happened to 15 million votes? They didn't vote. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. I'm not happy about it. It sucks. I'm pissed about it, but they didn't vote. So, and yes, Kara, I got yours. I wasn't offended. In fact, I'm looking forward to answering it. So here we go. Let's get started with the patron and member questions. And the first one is from the Worried Midwesterner. Well, from the Worried Midwesterner to the Worried Western Marylander. So I'm writing this on Monday. Ooh, those were the days. And hopefully we'll know the results by Friday of this election. I know which party you support, and I do as well. But if by Friday we know Trump wins, what do you suggest on doing to try and make the best out of the situation? What type of outreach, etc., are you hoping would work to make it not as bad? I'm frankly worried about the results and have no idea how it's this close if the polls are to be believed. P.S. If you have any advice or tips, how do you avoid election stress, especially when a big chunk of your content is election related? Well, the answer to that second question is easy. I just do other stuff. I mean, you know what my coping mechanism this week was, both leading into the election and then after the election and that awful result? Watching old episodes of Mythbusters. Just like find something that is familiar, that is comforting, that you can watch and be entertained by, or read, or listen to, or whatever. Just find something that is a pleasing, pleasant distraction that isn't going to take over your life, but it's just a little break that you can take to kind of recharge and just have a tiny little oasis away from everything before you plow back in. That has been an important thing to me over the last week or so, especially. But I mean, all through this whole election season, but especially lately. As for how do we make the best out of the situation? Well, if you are in a position where you can help people who need help, do that. You know, I mean, if you, and I'm not speaking just to you specifically as an individual, but anybody who is worried about what is about to happen and is concerned, if you can help people who need help, then do it. Whether that comes in a material form, if you know somebody who needs some money, they're trying to, save up to move from the part of the country where they live in now to a part of the country where they'll feel safer. If you can contribute to that, do that. If you can offer somebody a place to stay for a little while, a couch to sleep on, consider doing that. Get involved in your own community, not even on a level of electoral politics, but just, contribute to food banks, contribute to clothing drives. If there's a community program where you live that provides meals for people or does outreach to unhoused people or anything like that, if you're able to participate in that in some way or contribute to that in some way, whether it's volunteering your own time, helping out, contributing money, contributing goods, or things that you have that they might need. Like if you're able to do that, I would recommend doing that, not just because it's good work and necessary work and it helps people. That's the most important reason to do it, but it helps you too. It makes you feel better emotionally, psychologically. You feel like, well, at least I'm helping. Things might suck and maybe about to get a lot worse, but at least I'm doing what I can to help. So in the short term, I would recommend that. In the long term, I don't know. We'll see. Some random geek who wants folks to remember about charitylinks.page. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Hey all, it's Some Random Geek, the official agitprop radical anarchist of the Steve Shives channel. I most likely won't be in the live chat for this Ask Away, although I see you in the live chat right now, Geek. I just took a peek. I'm not paying permanent attention to it. I thought I saw Geek in there earlier, and I wanted to double check and make sure they were there. So anyway, I will be at KimuraCon, an anime convention in Portland, Oregon, and I may not be in the live chat to drop the links for Joanna, Phoenix, Joey, Naz, and LQ. So please, those with extra money, consider giving to those in need in charitylinks.page. Yes, indeed. And chat, remind Steve to mention it again at the end of the stream. Now to my question. This is a curveball, but on a stream I did with Owen McDonald on his channel with Aslan Rollins and Melissa/Spacecat, Owen asked the group's top 3 musicals, since Aslan was seeing a musical that night after the stream. They went to see Alice in Wonderland. Yes, a very strange question, but what do you think are my top 3 musicals? Either movies or stage plays or both. You already know Seven Brides for Seven Brothers isn't up there. This is a really good question because I honestly have no idea. I don't know what you have seen, whether it's on stage or as a film. So I'm not really sure what context to even pull from. I'm going to guess that one of your top 3 isn't Hamilton, because I've noticed people further to the left than me tend to really not like Hamilton. You may be an exception. You may not. I have no idea, but I'm going to leave Hamilton out of my guesses because I don't know. I honestly have no idea. The Music Man, Rent, and Les Mis. Those are literally off the top of my head, completely random. I have no idea if you would or do like any of those. You might loathe all of them. I really have no idea. But yeah, those are just 3 musicals that I know a lot of people like off the top of my head. I don't know if you like any of them or not, but yeah. There you go. Music Man, Rent, and Les Mis. I really, really hate Les Mis. I've never actually seen Rent all the way through, so I'm not sure if I have an opinion on it. Music Man is fun. I like Music Man, but yeah, Les Mis, I would take a blowtorch to. I absolutely despise Les Miserables, the musical. Manuel Paternoster. Hi, Steve. I'm writing this before Election Day, and I'm not going to edit my question. I sincerely hope that Kamala wins the election, and I would like it if the results are in by the time you are streaming so that we can all celebrate that she can be called president-elect and the U.S. and the world probably did not turn to shit. Please, please, please. Well, Manuel, I've got some bad news. Either way, I want to ask a simple question with a probably difficult answer. To quote Buffy and all the Scoobies, where do we go from here? And now I have the song stuck in my head. Oh, Geek, is that one maybe? Is the Buffy musical episode one? Possibly? I like that one, and I'm not a fan of musicals in general, but I will give it up for the Buffy musical episode. Anyway, Manuel continues. Anyways, I hope all did turn out well. As always, I thank you for all of your content. My best, Manuel. I kind of answered it already. Where do we go from here? We help out the best we can to for the people who need help, and find things that you are able to do that contribute something good to the world, even if it's just a tiny little thing, and that gives you some sense of joy or satisfaction in doing it. Do things that will help you to not sink too deeply into despair, because with the election result, it's really easy to give in to despair and to think, well, fuck it, nothing's ever going to get any better. Nothing we do makes a difference. There's no point in trying. Like it's really, really easy to feel that way and completely understandable to feel that way. Um, so I would recommend finding things to do in your life that help you to not feel that way. And if you can find things to do that help you to not feel that way and also make make a positive impact in the lives of other people or in your community, then even better, do that. But I think that's the best advice I, as a dipshit on YouTube, can come up with in the short term. A patron with a building election day anxiety, hence the early submission of a non-political opinion / question. Much appreciated. What factor made DS9 the best Trek series? For me, that factor was DS9's overlap in broadcasting with TNG and Voyager. As the second show, DS9 was judged against the familiarity and success of TNG. Most fans were not impressed and declared it to be not Trek. TNG's end saw Berman and Piller move on to develop Voyager, which would become the familiar Trek show. Ira Steven Behr was made DS9 showrunner. He added the talented TNG writers, Ron Moore and Renee Echevarria, to his staff, forever condemning Voyager and Enterprise to the lazy, less developed writing style of Brandon Braga. Unfettered by the criticisms of Paramount and fans, these liberated artists were free to pursue their creative muse. With an excellent cast, exquisite sets, and great direction, DS9 became a template for the modern TV art form and ultimately the best Trek series. All hail the man with the purple beard, Ira Steven Behr. I mean, yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said. I do think to sort of condense what you say in your question, the creators of DS9 were interested in making their show. They were not interested in making another TNG. They were not interested in making something that was just there to contribute excess bulk to the Star Trek franchise and to just add to the Star Trek universe in ways that they didn't find meaningful in terms of story. Like they had their characters and their stories and their show, and they made their show. And it had their tone and it had their themes. And yes, it fit within the big umbrella of Star Trek, but you can tell the people who made Deep Space Nine were not constantly obsessing over every tiny little detail and going, is this Star Trek enough? Like they made their show the way they wanted to make it, for the most part, within the boundaries that were drawn by the studio. And that's a big part of it. I also think a big part of it is that, especially as the show matured and got into its middle section, which I think is the best section of it, although I'm always a big fan and a big apologist and defender of the early years of DS9. But I mean, the middle years, like seasons 3, 4, 5, and 6, like the sort of meat of the series. I mean, it gets so good in that chunk of the show because now you've accumulated so much story and the characters have developed in such a way that it just becomes really compelling. But the writers of the show, the creators of the show, everybody involved with the creation, but especially the writers, because they're the ones that are making up the stories, they really mastered that balance between self-contained episodic storytelling and larger scale storytelling on the level or on the scale of a season and even the entire series. Most DS9 episodes, even in the later seasons, until you get to that very last like 9 or 10 episode stretch where it's really, really, really serialized, until you get to that point, almost every DS9 episode is a standalone episode, beginning, middle, and end, right? And self-contained. But within those self-contained episodes, there are character arcs that connect episodes to each other, that take multiple episodes to play out, that play out in different directions and evolve in different ways throughout the entire season, throughout the entire series. The way that I've described it before is the events in a Deep Space Nine episode stick, and they matter to the lives of the characters, and the characters change and grow as a result of the experiences they have in the show, to an extent that they almost never did in TNG, as much as I love that show, and they almost never did in Voyager, which you notice a lot more in Voyager because the characters in Voyager are never nearly as strong and as clearly drawn as the ones in TNG. So that lack of development really hurts Voyager more than it hurts TNG. But DS9 doesn't have that problem. So I would point to that, as well as what you say, that it's just such a unique show within the franchise. It is very much itself, not just another Star Trek show. David Colby is not thinking about politics, instead here to tell you about things he thinks are neat. You don't like fantasy and don't play video games, which is a bummer because I think you'd really like Pillars of Eternity, if only because of the big twist. Throughout the game, the gods are demonstrably real, their divine power influencing things. You can talk to them, but the big twist is that they're not. The ancient civilizations of the world studied what happens after we die and found the answer was there's nothing, just a big empty void. There's no creator, no divine plan, nothing but natural law. So in horror, these ancient peoples built gods out of the sacrifice of millions of souls, and those false gods are what everyone has been dealing with for thousands of years. What a twist! What a fascinating idea. A world with reincarnation and physically measurable souls that is also explicitly atheist, or at most deist, if you assume a creator made the world and left. And what a metaphor. The gods aren't real, but their impact on the world is. That's our world, Steve. I'm glad that it excites you so much. Thanks for sharing. I'm never, ever going to play it. MW Ridra. It is election day as I read this, and it literally feels like I'm waiting on the biopsy results of a tumor. Is it benign? Stage 4? Sickening dread. I find myself thinking of my dad's death. Don't feel bad, he was an abusive sexual predator, and how it was weirdly analogous to the modern US elections. See, Dad refused chemotherapy. Chemotherapy and cancer are both bad, so why bother with the chemotherapy? But Dad didn't want to die of cancer either, so instead he spent about $100,000 on this shit called Phoenix Tears, which is a popular bullshit cancer cure that is just marijuana extract suppositories. It made him feel great, and he was convinced it was working, and then he died. In case it wasn't clear, in this analogy, Dems are the chemo, Repubs are the cancer, and third-party candidates are the butt drugs sold by opportunistic grifters. What a beautiful metaphor that is. That works so well. And I also thank you for, I'm very sorry that this was the case. I'm very sorry that your dad was an abusive sexual predator. But I'm glad that you included that information in your question, because now I don't have to feel bad by sharing my opinion that, people who refuse chemotherapy in favor of fake grifter cures like Phoenix Tears deserve to die. John Burns. So are you going to apologize to some random geek for telling him not to vote for a third party in this week's election? Sounds like his idea was right. What prevented Kamala from winning the popular vote is Trump winning the popular vote. In 4 years, will you still encourage him to vote for a third party candidate? What? What does no, it has, first of all, the fact that Trump won the vote and that third party voters doesn't seem to have played a significant factor doesn't mean that it's a productive thing to vote for a third party. My objection to people voting third party in the current environment, where first of all, there are no viable third parties, and this isn't directed specifically at geek, but anybody who makes a big show of voting third party like they're doing some morally superior thing to people who vote for the Democrats. It's just you're just throwing your vote into a lake. Like it accomplishes nothing. My objection to people voting third party is that it accomplishes nothing. So everybody who voted third party in this election, they accomplished absolutely nothing, except if they happened to vote third party in a state where it was relatively close. And if there was not a third party option, they would have voted for Harris. They essentially voted for Trump. Now, they can soothe their consciences, I suppose, by saying, well, it doesn't seem like in any of the crucial states it was that close that the third party votes would have made a difference one way or the other. There doesn't seem to have been an analogy to like the Florida 2000 situation, where if the people who voted for Ralph Nader had voted for Al Gore instead, Gore would have won the state and the election. There doesn't, at this point, there doesn't seem to be the equivalent of that. Like the race wasn't close enough that would have made any difference in the outcome. But even so, it's a pointless fucking thing to do, and there's no excuse for it. And I don't respect it. And I think if people should have voted for Kamala Harris, period, end of story. Whether she ultimately won or lost doesn't change my opinion on that. So no, John, your question doesn't make any fucking sense. And I think it fundamentally misunderstands the reason why I criticize people for voting third party. So there. Phil, love your work, but curious as to whether your long-term career goals are to use your YouTube success as a jumping off point into writing for television and movies, or continuing to establish and grow your channel. The second one. I have done absolutely nothing to try and create opportunities for myself as a television or movie writer. So I don't expect those opportunities to just fall in my lap. And even if they somehow did, unless it was like a dream project or something that was giving me the opportunity to make a life-changing amount of money, I'm not sure I would be interested. Because the YouTube channel, even though my YouTube channel, by no means am I getting rich off of it, and by no means do I expect that I will ever get rich off of it. It pays the bills. It affords me a level of freedom, both creative freedom and the freedom to make the schedule that I want to make and live my life more or less as I want to live it. And gives me means within which I can live that life that, I live comfortably, certainly not opulently, certainly not, I'm not in a situation where like I don't have to be mindful of money. I do, but I'm not, constantly on the edge of the cliff trying to avoid being shoved off, financially speaking. So that's good. But no, but I enjoy being able to do what I want to do, to make the videos I'm interested in making, talk about things that I'm interested in or that I think are important. And if I do get the chance to do something creative, even though I am extremely limited by my resources and my production schedule, within those limits, which I've learned to work within pretty well, I can do a lot of stuff, and I have total creative freedom within those limits. And I like that. And it would take a lot at this point in terms of either a creative opportunity or a paycheck to convince me that it was worth not doing that anymore. So no, my goal is to continue doing what I've been doing. I don't think, and even if I wanted to try and transition somehow into a TV or movie writing career, I don't see how that would be remotely realistic at this point in my life. Agent Meister, who spent Tuesday night watching the forest voting for the axe just because its handle was made of wood. Boy, another good analogy. Peldor Joy Steve, at the end of 2005's Lord of War, Nicolas Cage's character quotes Edmund Burke by saying that evil prevails when good men do nothing. He then corrects Burke by just saying evil prevails. I'm not well read enough to state that Trump is a force for evil, but he is not a force for good. And I think of Lord of War because after everything you and so many other people have tried doing and highlighting the way this racist, sexist, homophobic pig carries himself, a convicted felon and proven insurrectionist, someone who mocks disabled people and prisoners of war, the incident at Arlington and the garbage remark about Puerto Rico, not only will this behavior go unpunished, it's going to be rewarded. And with the biggest prize there is. I can't figure you Americans out. present company excluded. You make such a song and dance about being a bastion of democracy and freedom, but you've just reelected a guy who promised he'll be a dictator on day one. Well, my friend, if it makes you feel any better, I don't get it either. I mean, I do. I get it on one level. I get it on the level that it doesn't, that even though it depresses me and pisses me off and um, deflates me and discourages me and causes me to feel a million other not very nice things, it doesn't surprise me. So I get it in the sense of, oh, of course that's what we did. Like, what else would we do? You know? But I don't understand it on the granular level. You know, like you said in your name this time, like, you know, why would the trees in the forest vote for the axe? You know, I don't get it on that level. Um, but I do think there are all kinds of factors that play into it. I mean, I think a lot of it is the, you know, well, I never thought the leopards would eat my face phenomenon. I do think a lot of it is ignorance. A lot of it is people are just uh, blinded by their own credulity and bigotry and wishful thinking. And they honestly believe that this is going to be a good thing. And that the people that Trump says are bad are the people that they think are bad too. And they like hearing that from their president. So that's the guy they support. I mean, there are all kinds of factors that play into it, but no, you're looking at us from the outside and shaking your head and going, what the fuck is the deal with this? Believe me, there are quite a few of us that that think the exact same thing on a constant basis. Steve. Hi, Steve. I'm sending you this after last night's results. I have a close friend who is transgender, and I feel so helpless, and I don't know how to help them. Not really a question, but I just needed to say this to someone. Well, I can go back to the answer I gave to a previous question. I mean, if they say they need help in a way that you are able to help them, then help them. I mean, you know, if they say they need a place to stay, if they say they need money for something, if they say they need food or something, some essential that you can help to provide them, then do that. If they need someone to talk to and you're able to just, you know, get on the phone with them or get on a Zoom call with them, or if you know them in you know, if you live close together, you can go over to their place or invite them over to your place or meet somewhere for a meal or go to a movie or just go to a park somewhere and go for a walk together and just listen and talk and be there and let your friend know that they're not in this alone, that there are people that have their back and they're on their side and will make sure that they get through this. Little tiny things like that can make a big difference. So I don't know. I mean, it's completely understandable that you feel helpless and you don't know how to help them. I mean, and that's one of the worst feelings in the world when someone you care about is going through something, and there's nothing you can do. I mean, that's a terrible feeling. But sometimes the best thing you can do, or the only thing you can do, is just let them know that you're there. And if they need you, like if they reach out, you'll be there. And if they need you for something and you can possibly help them with what they need, that you'll do it. And that might be all you can do, but it also might be enough, you know? So good luck to you and your friend. Simon Moody. So that happened. Being on a desert island with nothing but lower decks doesn't look so bad now, huh? Now, why do you have to attack me? In my moment of vulnerability, in our moment of shared national, dare I say, global vulnerability, why do you have to throw in that lower deck sucker punch? I don't appreciate that, Simon. Anyway, I can't come up with a question. The vile ramifications are still sinking in. I feel both disgust and pity for those I know in the U.S. We voted in Boris, though, so we hardly have the high ground. Best I can do is continue to take joy in the things that bring you joy. And that is definitely not bad advice. And yes, the fact that you voted in Boris, the fact that you voted for Brexit, it doesn't make me feel any better. But there is something weirdly comforting about knowing that It's not that my country has gone completely nuts. It's that my country is just not immune from much of the rest of the world going completely nuts. You know, it's like, well, at least it's not just us. It doesn't fix anything. It doesn't help anything, but at least it's not just us, you know? Although the fact that it is us is a lot more dangerous to the rest of the world than it would be if it was, you know, when other countries. But yeah, it's a terrible situation all around. So thanks. Andy Lawler, how in the fuck did this country elect a goddamn rapist to the presidency? Excuse me. Elect a goddamn rapist to the presidency again. Hey, Steve. So much to process. On one hand, I'm a 6'4" straight, cis, white presenting man, the default easy mode setting in this country. I should be fine. But I'm also a disabled Jew drawing a public pension. They hate literally all of that. So maybe I'm not safe. Regardless, my wife and 3 daughters, one of whom is trans, another I'm sending to university next fall, are in genuine peril. My many LGBTQ friends, especially my trans friends, are now in an existential crisis. The economy is going to collapse. Ukraine will be fucked. Gaza will be completely destroyed, whether with chemical weapons or tactical nukes. Watch this space. Netanyahu is Jewish Hitler. He'll do whatever he can he can get away with. I guess my question is, we have a reasonable expectation of how things will go down, but how much worse would a guy-liner presidency be? Do we really have to hope Reverend Leader grab them by the pussy doesn't die in office? Thanks, and survive the weekend, everybody. You know, I really don't know if Vance would be better or worse or no different, because the main thing he has in common with Donald Trump is that they're both completely fucking empty suits. Maybe Vance would be slightly more dangerous just because he's not bumblingly incompetent in the way that Trump is. But then again, for reasons that escape me at the moment, Vance also is not nearly as popular with that base that Trump is. Trump's connection to the base that has elected him seems to be unique to him. Like, those people love Trump and they'll do what Trump tells them to do, and they'll rush to Trump's defense no matter what, you know, no matter how flagrant his violation is, right? They've got his back no matter what. They're ride or die with Trump. But with other Republicans, not so much. So if Trump dies or is somehow driven from office and we wind up with President Vance for the rest of his term, I don't know, even though you could say that Vance is younger and less deranged and more sort of conventionally competent, although let's remind ourselves, he's not super like, the guy is a massive dipshit. It's not like he's Trump, but he's smart and he knows what he's doing. He's not that smart and he really doesn't know what he's doing. But compared to Trump, he's more conventionally competent. But he won't command that cult of personality that Trump does. So would he be able to govern with the same confidence and strength that Trump could? I honestly don't know. And I'm not really, like, that's not where I'm trying to find a bright side at this moment. You know, like, well, maybe, Trump is going to be terrible, but Vance would be worse. Or conversely, well, I mean, maybe Trump's not going to make it and then Vance will take over. And maybe, I mean, he'll still be terrible, but at least he'll be a little better. Like, I honestly have no idea. So I'm not really actively hoping for either one of those. I'm not actively, oh God, I hope Trump makes it all the way through, or, oh God, I hope Trump doesn't make it and at least Vance takes over. Like, I'm not actively hoping for either one because I'm not really sure if it would make a difference. General Contact Unit Problem Child. Yesterday, an American trans person I know on Discord said, I think I might go back to presenting as male until I can see how bad things get. I can't blame them, but I think it's worth pointing out that's the less obviously brutal side of what this genocide will look like. They want queer people to disappear. I'm sure they'd rather achieve that by murdering them all, but getting them to hide is almost as good. That is an excellent point. And I think most of them, except for the really, really like dyed in the wool, intentional, willful bigots, which is a lot of people, unfortunately, but is not the whole group. And I think other than those people, a lot of the Trump voters and a lot of the people who are supportive of this, they would be perfectly happy if trans people and queer people across the spectrum continued to exist, but just existed in an invisible way so that those people on the right just never had so that they could pretend that they don't exist. I think a lot of them would be completely happy with that. And it's unacceptable. They shouldn't, them being happy with that should not be an option. Queer people can and must be allowed to live openly as who they are in whatever way they want to. And if a bunch of fucking uptight conservatives have a problem with it, that's their problem and they can go fuck themselves. We don't make policy based on them, or at least we shouldn't be. We make policy based on freedom and equal rights and liberty for all. Whether you're gay or trans or, other than somewhere on the binary, on the gender spectrum, whatever you happen to be, you have the right or should have the right to live your life as who you are and be respected and be treated with dignity and have the same opportunities as everybody else. But a lot of those Trump supporters would be perfectly happy if they just didn't have to think about it anymore. Oh, trans people, I just don't like thinking about it. So if all the trans people in the country decided, you know what, fuck it, we're going to detransition and go back to presenting as the gender we were assumed to be at birth, I think a lot of Trump voters would be like, okay. Actually, I probably shouldn't make that sign, should I? They'd be like, okay. At least for now. I mean, I think eventually they would get around to saying, actually, that's not good enough. But for now, I think that would be good enough for them. But you're right to point that out, that is a form of genocide. That is a form of discrimination. You are erasing an entire identity of humanity, at least from visibility, that you have no reason to, that has done you no harm, that is no danger, that presents no threat at all. And you're saying, I want to get rid of those people for no reason other than just hateful intolerance. And that is something that's going to affect people's lives. And it might not kill people, although I suspect it will kill some people, unfortunately. But it might not kill people, but it's going to make people's lives miserable and into a hardship for no reason whatsoever. Ben Douglas. Hi, Steve. Do you have any topics that you wish people asked about more? These can be topics that people rarely ask about or topics that people do ask about, but that you have unbounded enthusiasm for. I love it when people ask me to assemble my own custom Star Trek crews from characters on the shows. No, that's the opposite. I hate those questions. And my patrons and members have been very kind to me recently, and I hope I'm not jinxing it by saying this, but I have not gotten one of those questions for quite a while, and I'm very happy about that because I hate those questions. I mean, I'm probably never going to get tired of an excuse to talk about pro wrestling, much to the chagrin of most of my audience. I have a tiny little sliver of fellow wrestling fans who enjoy it when I talk about wrestling, but most of my audience just doesn't get it or doesn't like it. And I understand that and I respect that. And I try to be mindful of that and determining how often I do talk about wrestling in my videos. But yeah, I'm never going to get tired of that. I enjoy questions about movies and TV shows and writing and stuff like that. Things that give me an opportunity to pontificate on some of the very, very few subjects that I actually feel like I know something about. Yeah, but those are very broad. Like I'm not, I'm happy to answer or at least attempt to answer whatever questions that that you good supporters of mine feel see fit to send me. But yeah, I mean, a wrestling question or a question that enables me to put on my movie critic or TV critic hat will never go amiss. And also, MacGyver, Batman, Superman, stuff like that. Joe McClory, there are so many things that I am processing about this election, and there will be more in the future, I'm sure. but of the questions that I think I might be ready to address is, how did I not see this coming? I tell people around me about the echo chambers they're in and the lies they only believe because they don't see all the news, but I didn't see this coming. I thought maybe that he might win narrowly because of our bad system, but the idea of Trump winning the popular vote, it couldn't happen. It was more likely that Harris would have blown him out. I am in a silo too, it seems. Do you know of any news sources that are progressive but were pessimistic about the election? Do you feel like you were in the same boat? Was part of why this hurts is because you had faith in us doing better? I mean, I can't really help you with the news sources because most of my news sources are the same ones that everybody else uses. Like you know, check NBC News and CNN and NPR, and see what reliable sources people are posting on social media. But as for, I mean, I'll put it this way. I was not surprised. I was hopeful throughout the campaign, especially when Kamala Harris stepped in to become the candidate. I was hopeful. I felt good about it. I felt like it was possible, even likely, that she would win, but I never gave myself over to feeling like, we've got this. I never felt that. So when the result came in and it was what it was, it sucked and it hurt and it was incredibly deflating, but it wasn't a surprise. And I think the reason it hurt for me was not that I had faith in us doing better, because I feel like you would be a fool to have that kind of faith in the American people at this point. I think we've proven ourselves enough that you cannot, we are capable of more. We are capable. We have the potential of doing better for ourselves. We have the potential of making the right choice. We have the potential of turning the page and moving forward and embracing change. We have the potential, but you should never set your heart on us actually doing it, because we have proven over and over and over and over again that it is foolish to put that kind of faith in us as a group, as a population, as an electorate. It's just foolish to put that kind of faith in us. But what made it hurt was, well, first of all, the sort of the preemptive exhaustion, realizing, okay, 4 more years of this, that feeling, that weight, that heaviness of, okay, here we go. We have to get through this for at least 4 more years. It'll be 2 years before we have a chance to make a meaningful correction to this in terms of control of Congress. It'll be 4 years until we have a chance to kick these assholes out and get somebody better in. So it's all right. 4 more years. Here we go. There was that, which again was not totally unexpected, but was incredibly unwelcome. And then it was just the disappointment, not a surprising disappointment, not the fact that I thought we would make the better choice and then we didn't, but the fact that we didn't, and it just reinforces my belief that it's foolish to think that we will, and even though it's not surprising, it is depressing. Like, oh, we had the chance to do something better and we didn't, everything that was at stake, people's rights, people's lives, democracy itself, perhaps, and a very, very large portion of the country just didn't care. And that's incredibly bleak. and incredibly depressing. And even though at this point it doesn't surprise me, the fact that it doesn't surprise me hurts, you know? So yeah, that's the boat I was in. Um, that's the boat I was in. Siamak, who has nothing pithy to say here. Hi, Steve. I'm sorry for such a downer question this week. Well, I'm devastated. After losing 2 jobs in just 5 months, I'm financially stable for now, so please don't worry about me. I decided to stop looking for new work and focus on the campaign. That was a mistake. If it had been even remotely close, I wouldn't feel this way. And to be clear, I was in a vulnerable position. My job is a significant part of my identity, so exposing myself to the 50-50 shot at failure was a mistake. Now, all marginalized people will suffer immeasurably more than they were. And here I am, not white, but generally safe. Yet I haven't been able to go outside or be around other people. It's not healthy. I've already started working with local third parties to elect progressive candidates to local and state offices who will caucus with Democrats to try and break up the two-party system from the bottom up, but I don't know how many more losses I can handle. Well, first of all, I completely understand and hear you when you're saying how you feel and how devastated you are and how you feel that you wish you hadn't committed so much to the campaign. And um, I completely get it. But I appreciate what you did. And I know how hard you worked, and you talked about it a lot, especially in the lead up to the election. I know how hard you worked. I know how much you threw into this personally to try and win Pennsylvania for our side. And um, I appreciate it. And a lot of us appreciate it. What you did, what people like you did all across Pennsylvania, all across the country. And you know what? Even though our presidential ticket didn't win, a lot of Democrats won down ballot races that perhaps they would not have won were it not for the efforts of people like you. So even though the presidential election was an L for our side, and that is not to be overlooked because that is incredibly important and that matters. And as you point out, that is going to yield devastating results for a lot of people for a long time. And it is a scar that is it is a yet another scar, another self-inflicted wound on the people of this country by the people of this country that is going to take a long time to heal. Um, and that can't be discounted or overlooked or minimized. But in the shadow of that defeat, there were smaller victories. And I think you and people like you who phone banked, who canvassed, who threw yourselves into the campaign deserve some credit for that. So I don't expect that will make you feel all that much better. And I don't think that, that is a silver lining in the sense that you can say, oh, well, oh, well, yeah, we lost the presidency, but at least, we didn't lose, at least the Democrats didn't lose control of the Pennsylvania State House, or at least we didn't lose these congressional districts that we might have lost without our effort. Like, I know that that's cold comfort, but you didn't accomplish nothing. Things didn't go as good as we wanted them to, but they went better than they may have gone had you not been there. And that's not nothing. And like I said, I don't expect it to mean that much to you, and I don't expect it to make everything better. But that's something maybe to keep in mind, or at least to think about a little further down the road when you're more in a place emotionally that you can think about that. Because right now you're still in the immediate aftermath, and it hurts. And it may hurt for a while. And that's, you just need to grieve, to process it. And maybe when you're past this most acute stage of it, you can be in a place where you can maybe take a little tiny bit of pride in the work that you did, because I think it was worth it. Even in the face of the result, I think it was worth it. So, Air One Fire, a regular fit guy who wears regular fit shirts. Well, thank you very much. Good for you. As am I would like to think, in my vanity. Hi, Steve. I'm already done grieving, but honestly, I wish Democrats would stop spreading misinformation online. The popular vote isn't even known yet. My unrelated question is, what do you think about the movie Captain Marvel? I remember being disappointed that there's no big battle at the end and no real adversary for the hero after she gets her powers. But then I realized the entire movie is about fighting the patriarchy and a system that demonizes immigrants. In that context, it kind of works that the heroine can just ignore them and do her own thing and have nothing to prove to them. And now it's one of my favorite superhero movies, despite the unfunny dialogue on the part of Danvers. What do you think? Best wishes. I'll watch this in the morning because my sleep is now surprisingly good. Well, excellent. Good for you. I'm glad to hear that. I think I've only seen Captain Marvel one time. I think I saw it in theaters when it came out, and I think that's the only time I've ever watched it. But I really liked it. I'm going from memory, and I don't remember everything about it, but I remember thinking it was very good and leaving the theater thinking that was very good. I like that. Um, I remember the sort of anticlimactic resolution to her conflict with the villain, with the Jude Law character, you know, where he's like basically squaring up to fight her, like, okay, yeah, me and you, finally, mano a mano, let's go. And she basically just blows him off and says, I have nothing to prove to you. Like, I remember liking that very much. No, I liked it a lot. Like I said, I'm going from memory, having seen it one time, and that one time now being several years ago. But I remember liking it a lot, and I liked the sequels and sort of spin-offs of it as well. I really liked the Miss Marvel series on Disney Plus, and I really liked the Marvels, which was the sequel to Captain Marvel and also the sequel to Miss Marvel. I thought that was a really fun superhero movie. So yeah, I like Captain Marvel. Kara, aka the Tolkien nerd. Hi, Steve. Can you leave this question until you can leave this question until last if you like? Well, it's not last, but it's near the bottom. It's almost last, Kara. Because I suspect it's complicated. Can you explain the Electoral College to me? Because it baffles me. You may have to explain as you would a child. On a lighter note, a liar, a con man, and a thief walk into a bar. The barman looks up and says, "So what'll it be, Mr. Trump?" Thinking of you, Kara. Well, thank you very much. Um, it's not super complicated. It's just that it's way more complicated than it needs to be. So the way the Electoral College works is instead of electing the president of the United States through a nationwide popular vote, where we would just have everybody in every state who's eligible to vote, and then when the election's over, we count up all the votes from all the states in one big pile, and whichever candidate has the most votes wins. Instead of doing that, there is each state selects a group of electors for each candidate. And the way it works now is the political parties select their electors. So there are groups of electors that are pledged to vote for the candidate nominated by that political party. So in every state, like here in Maryland, the Republican Party of Maryland selected a slate of electors who pledged to vote for Donald Trump if he won our state's electoral votes. And the Democratic Party of Maryland selected electors that pledged to vote for Kamala Harris if Kamala Harris won our state's electoral votes. And every state does that. And after the election is over and the winner has been determined and which slate of electors for which candidate from each state are chosen, then in December, I think it's on December, is it December 6th? It's sometime in December, the electors actually formally meet in what's called the Electoral College, and they formally cast their votes. And the candidate that receives a majority of the electoral votes is the one that becomes the president. There are a total of 538 electoral votes in the entire country. And the way we get to that number is each state gets one electoral vote for each of its members of Congress that represent the people of its state, plus one electoral vote for each United States senator, and every state has 2 United States senators. So all of the states, all of their representatives and all of their senators add up to, actually, they add up to 535. But then the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, which is an independent district and isn't part of any state, it also gets 3 electoral votes. Because even though it doesn't have any senators and it doesn't have any representatives in Congress, it does have a delegate in Congress who can participate and caucus with people, but doesn't have any actual voting authority. But 3 is the minimum number of electoral votes that any state can have, because the fewest number of members of Congress you can have is 1, and the fewest members of the Senate you can have is 2. So the fewest number of electoral votes any state could have is 3. So that's the minimum. So Washington, D.C. gets the minimum too. So you add its 3 electoral votes to the 535 total electoral votes that the other states have combined, and you get to 538. So whoever wins a majority of the 538 electoral votes, which is 270 electoral votes, gets to be the president. And the reason we do that is because when the Constitution was being framed, the representatives from the southern states and also from a few low population northern states, some of the smaller northern states that didn't have massive population centers, but mostly the southern states, the slaveholding states, they were concerned that if we elected the president through just a straight popular vote, that the states with large populations would always be the ones that choose the president. And if you apportion the vote through the Electoral College, it gives the states with smaller populations more of a say in who the president gets to be. So it was an added layer of complication to how we select the president that was added primarily as a compromise to please what at the time was the slaveholding South. So a lot of people would rather just get rid of it. I think it's a good idea to just get rid of it and find a simpler, more direct way of electing the president. But that's how the Electoral College works. And that, very simply and very broadly speaking, is why we have it. And if you have any further questions about it, and I can possibly answer them, I'm not a scholar on the subject or anything. I have a pretty decent layman's understanding of it. But if you have any questions for it in the live chat after I get through the rest of these questions, I would be happy to attempt to answer them for you. Dana, who has needed more pie than ever to get through the past week. Pie and tequila, though not often at the same time. Hi, Steve. Happy Friday. I know that you know that I love pie, although I'm not sure that anyone can truly appreciate just how much I love pie. I will agree with that. I don't think anybody can even come close to fathoming it. Anyway, because I sure as shit don't want to continue trudging through the mire that is the current political situation in the good old US of A, I figured I'd point my question elsewhere. What's your favorite Thanksgiving food? And what do you like about it? Yours in solidarity, always, Dana. It's so hard to choose, but I saw your question earlier and I was thinking about it. And I think if I had to choose a favorite Thanksgiving food, and it's something that was always a staple of our Thanksgiving meals in my family, it would be dried sweet corn. So it's a side dish. It's not one of the main, it's not like, turkey or ham or one of the big, or even one of the classics like the cranberry sauce from the can or stuffing or mashed potatoes, all of which I absolutely love. But every Thanksgiving and most Christmas dinners as well, it was a staple of my family's holiday dinners. We always had dried sweet corn, which is in comparison to like the regular sweet corn that you get, like either frozen in the bag or in the can, or fresh off the cob if you want to get real fancy, um, which is plump and yellow. You know, dried sweet corn is it's dehydrated. The kernels are dried and they're darker in color. They're kind of golden brown rather than yellow. Um, and you can serve them in a bunch of different ways. You can cream them. You can just heat them up in water, much like you would like standard sweet corn. But they have such an interesting texture and such an interesting flavor. They're a lot richer than non-dried corn. They have a I and they have a they kind of they hang together a little bit better. They're not completely mushy, but they hang together a little better than, you know, the kernels aren't as individualized as standard sweet corn kernels are. So I really love it. It's one of my favorite parts of any holiday meal. And it's not, you know, it's not the part that I'm going to eat the most of. I'm just going to put a little pile of it on my plate next to the turkey and the ham and the mashed potatoes and everything else that I'm also going to love. And there's going to be pumpkin pie that I'm going to love. And when my pap was alive, which granted hasn't been for a very long time, but when he was around, his favorite dessert was what was called, probably problematically, Chinese wedding cake. That's probably not an acceptable name for it, but it's basically sponge cake, layers of sponge cake with layers of pineapple and whipped cream in the middle, and then it's iced with whipped cream, and it's fucking delicious. And Pap always called it Chinese wedding cake. I have no idea why, but that's good. You know, so there's so many options for Thanksgiving dinner. But dried sweet corn, I think if I had to choose one thing that I looked forward to the most and that I loved the most, that I specifically associate with Thanksgiving, it's the dried sweet corn. And finally, from Russell, last question. Hi, Steve. Sigh. There is no words. My daughter got pregnant with her second child. By her first trimester, she was told that there would be severe problems for her son, but thanks to Roe v. Wade being overturned, she had to hope for the best. Here's what happened. She gave birth 6 weeks later, Austin being born at 4.5 months. He struggled for 2 more months as we watched him, humanized him only to lose the battle. Last week was his services. This is the Republican Party. Keep in mind, 2001 led to the Patriot Act, which ignores human basic rights. This race wasn't even close. U.S. Senate is GOP. The House is about to be GOP. The Supreme Courts are GOP. Where did we go wrong? I was wrong. I never saw this coming. I was so cocky to think he has lost already. It's a wound I need to express, especially given I live in a red state. Where did we go wrong? Hell, I had people laughing, asking you, crying, what has happened to our country? And can we ever repair this? Or the damage of the next 4 years? What does this say about our country or us as human beings? Is humanity truly dead? Well, first of all, since I haven't told you this yet, my condolences on your loss. No, humanity's not truly dead. What it says about us as human beings is that we're easily led, we're easily fooled, we like hearing what we like hearing. We are incredibly eager to disengage our critical thinking if it will lead to more comforting conclusions for us. We're not nearly as smart as we think we are. We're not nearly as objective as we think we are. We're a lot easier to fool than we think we are. And I don't accept myself from that. I'm not talking just about Trump supporters, although in this case, I'm primarily talking about them, but it applies to all of us. Like, that's just the nature of our existence. And we like to ignore that whenever we can and think like, oh, we're so smart. We're so highly evolved. We're so clever. You know, we're so moral. And that is often not the case. And I think part of it is that. Part of it is that there are a lot of people in this country who are deeply intolerant of other people, who are deeply scared and intolerant and hateful toward people that they view as unlike them, whether those people be immigrants or queer people or black people or brown people. people from other countries, people who practice other religions than theirs, disabled people, people who they think dress funny. Like, you know, not all of these are actively persecuted groups, but there's a sense of, oh, I don't understand those people. I don't get those people. I don't remember having people like that around when I was a kid. There's something wrong with those people. It's their fault. Whatever is wrong with the country, whatever is wrong with my life, it's their fault. They're fucking it up somehow. And we have to stop them. We have to punish them. We have to make them suffer. Or at the very least, it'll feel real good if we can take this out on them. There's a lot of sentiment like that in the country. That's where Trump draws his support from. And if you did underestimate that, you were wrong to do that. I don't think it's something you should flagellate yourself about forever. You know, hopefully your eyes are open now. You've learned your lesson. And look, you did your part. You voted. I'm not mad at you. The fact that you were shocked by it, that you didn't see it coming, you know, that's something that you have to deal with. Like Joe, who asked the question earlier, like that's unfortunately something that you're going to have to get your head around. But you did your part. You voted. The people I'm really mad at are the people who didn't vote, or who voted but didn't vote for Harris, or most especially who voted for Trump. Like those are the people I'm really mad at. But at the same time, I kind of consider them a lost cause. Because if you're voting for Trump at this point, I have nothing to say to you. It's the people who voted for Biden last time and then didn't vote for Harris this time that I'm cross with, let's just say. Or people who, you know, would have voted for Harris this time, but decided to vote for a third-party candidate or to leave the presidential line on their ballot blank for whatever fucking reason. They convinced themselves it was better to do that. Even though, as I said in response to an earlier question, you accomplish absolutely nothing by doing that, other than helping Trump. But no, but does all this mean that humanity is dead? That there's no hope for us? No. 65 million people still voted for Harris, which is way less than it should have been. Way less than it should have been. But that's not nobody. There are lots of people in this country who are utterly horrified and embarrassed and scared about what's going to happen the next 4 years. And if there was truly no hope for humanity, if there was truly no hope for this country, if we were truly a lost cause, that would not be the case. So things are bad, and things may get a lot worse in the next 4 years, and you need to prepare yourself for that, and you need to think about what you're going to do to try and counteract that. But things are not hopeless, and you must never allow yourself to believe that they are hopeless, or that there's no point in trying to build back. There's no point in taking another run at it. There's no point in fighting against Trump and his ilk, because there is a point and there is hope. And it's not just hopeful to do that. It's absolutely essential to do that, especially now and especially in the near future. For the next few years, it is absolutely essential to do that. And we are all going to have to do that in various different ways. But no, it's not hopeless. And like I said in my video that I made right after the election, it's completely understandable if you need to take a break, if you need to disconnect for a while, if you need to take some time to process, to get over it, to find your resolve. Take time, you know, step away, but come back, you know, don't give up. Whatever we do, we must not give up. So anyway, that was my answer to the last of the patron and member questions. Thanks to all of my patrons so much, and my channel members for sending those questions in. Before I turn my full attention to the live chat for the rest of the show, I do want to premiere a brand new Stuffy and Friends short. So as usual, this will go up tomorrow on my channel as a standalone YouTube short, but because you are watching live tonight on Askaway, you get to see the world premiere of a brand new Stuffy and Friends short. So please do enjoy that right now.
Oi. Oi!
Sorry, Jack, I guess I didn't hear you.
What were you listening to?
I just had my music app on shuffle. When I noticed you, it was playing an Imagine Dragons song. Not a fan?
I'm not a fan of any group with a name that's telling me what to do. Whether I choose to imagine dragons or not is nobody's bloody business but my own. I have a similar issue with Fall Out Boy, but only when I'm standing in a queue.
Fair enough, I suppose.
What are we talking about?
Imagine Dragons. Are you a fan?
I could say I'm not, but you wouldn't believe me because...
No?
Don't you do it!
I'm a bad liar!
What about Fall Out Boy?
Fall Out Boy sucks.
Really?
Yeah. How good do you have to be to stand there and say, "Watch out, radioactive man"? It's a monkey's job. Do you need me for anything else?
Nope.
You're dismissed.
Ta-da! Hope you enjoyed that. I kind of like that one. I know it's self-praise is cheap praise, but I'm pleased with that one. All right, let's turn to the live chat and see what everybody has to say. Double Guitar says, "What accent is that?" Theoretically, it is Irish. I make no claims as to how authentic it is, but the direction that it is aimed at is an Irish accent. Data LaForge says, "You helped me in 2011 when I was a Christian worship leader serving overseas while losing my faith in God. When I came to realize that I'm non-binary, and now as I've started to lose faith in America." Well, I hope I can continue to help you. And thank you for saying that. Super chat from Cast Iron Chaos. "Steve, I posted a long word salad comment to your Now What vid on Patreon and YouTube. I hope you consider it." I will check it out. I'm not sure if I've seen it, but I will check it out. Thank you for letting me know. And thank you for the super chat. I saw one here, a wrestling question. From Ace Shock. "Steve, do you watch AEW? Also, for those who voted for Trump that think grocery prices will magically get lowered are naive. It won't get lowered given the tariffs." I absolutely agree with you about that. Trump's not going to do anything to help grocery prices. Anyone who votes for a Republican because they think Republicans are better for the economy is a fool. That's ahistorical. It's non-factual. Republican policies are not good for the economy. Look it up. Historically speaking, Republicans are not good stewards of the economy. Democrats are much better stewards of the economy than Republicans are. So if you are voting Republican because of economic issues, you are doing it wrong. I used to watch AEW. I was an early adopter of AEW. I watched it before Dynamite started. I watched the early, like the shows that they did that earlier that year, like the first Double or Nothing and Fighter Fest and Fight for the Fallen. They're sort of, warm-up shows that they did. And before that, I also watched All In. But no, I haven't watched it for I haven't watched it since last year, since August 2023. I haven't watched it since they fired Punk. And even what turned out to be Punk's last show, the All In show at Wembley last year, even before they fired Punk, I was rapidly losing interest in it. I was only watching Collision. I wasn't watching Dynamite at all. Dynamite had completely lost any appeal for me. I was only watching Collision. Collision was actually a really good show until they fired Punk and the whole reason for it existing went away. And then it just became another AEW show. So I stopped watching it too. I just stopped watching it altogether. And I mean, even with All In, I only watched 2 matches on it. I watched Punk's match and I watched the main event with MJF and Adam Cole. And that was it. And I've snuck back in to watch a handful of matches since. I think I watched the first MJF Will Ospreay match, the one where they almost went for a full hour. I did watch that and thought that was pretty good. But other than that, and maybe a handful of other matches here and there, I don't watch it anymore. It is not. I think the storytelling is absolutely abysmal. I think for the most part, the matches are just not my cup of tea at all. I don't really feel any investment in any of the wrestlers there anymore. I mean, I still think MJF is a fantastic talent. I think a lot of the other people they have there, I think Swerve is really great or potentially really great. I think Willow Nightingale is tremendous. Like there are people there that I think genuinely have talent, but it's, nothing that happens makes any difference. Nothing that happens matters. It's just people having matches for no reason. Everybody thinks that everybody works like they're trying to have the best match ever. There's no sense of balance. There's no sense of cohesion on the shows. It seems like just everybody doing whatever they want to do at that particular moment. And it's just not for me. And meanwhile, WWE has gotten like really, really good. Comparatively, like it's WWE still does its silly horse shit too that I could do without. But I mean, now, suddenly all my favorite wrestlers are working for the WWE. Cody's there. Punk is there. LA Knight is fantastic. I'm a huge fan of his. Rhea Ripley, who unfortunately just got injured and is going to be out for a while, but she's there. I'm a huge fan of hers. It's like, I've got the fucking Motor City Machine Guns are there now. What the fuck? Like, that's all my favorite wrestlers are there now. So I watch WWE and I don't watch AEW at all. All right. I know I've missed some super chats. Let me go back and see here. Kirak 2011 says, how do you know dragons weren't dinosaurs? I guess you could imagine they were if you wanted to. Theo Magnus Dahl, what do you think will happen if Trump implements Project 2025? I mean, all the really bad shit that it says in Project 2025 will happen. Really, really bad shit will happen. Kirak 2011 says, come preach to my state, Steve. We're going to have to discuss my fee at some point. Yeah, Steve Schmeling with the Fall Out Boy joke I was hoping somebody would make. Up and at them! Oh, Dana, have I heard Francesca Ramsey's Leopard song? Yes, I have. I love Francesca so much. She's hilarious. Voices in Espanol. Steve, is your YouTube channel your full-time job or just a hobby? Full-time job, buddy. Andrew Klang, that was the most authentically Irish accent since Riley from TOS. Thank you very much. I will take that as the earnest compliment it was surely meant as. Dana, Steve has no real job. Thanks, Dana. Thanks for the support. EEST9, why do you think Trump has such a deep connection to the Republican voter base? Because they have elected him twice, despite the fact that he is an open bigot and criminal and completely corrupt and utterly incompetent. That's why I think he has they do nothing but make excuses for him. Mike again says, my dumbass cousin texted me, well, when he was in office, the economy was good. Yeah, and you know why, right? I mean, Barack Obama started saying this on the campaign trail. The The economy was good when Trump was president because it was Obama's economy. Like Trump took credit for the economy on day one. Trump took credit for the economy as soon as he got there, when he was barely president for 5 minutes, and he was like, "See, we fixed the economy. My mere presence has healed the nation." Right? Like he had nothing to do with the economy being good during his presidency. No Republican has anything to do with how good the economy was during their presidency. If they come in after a Democrat and the economy's good, it's because the goddamn Democrats got the economy in shape, usually as a result of cleaning up a mess that they were left by Republicans. That's what happened with Obama. That's what happened with Biden. Like, that's what always happens. So yeah, you're correct. Your cousin is a dumbass. Ikeda Hakubi, do you think we will have a real election in 2028? I honestly have no idea. I hope so. I hope I get to vote again, and that it's an actual legitimate election. We'll see. $255 AD says, this morning I heard my dad yelling at me from downstairs, and I thought, oh, fuck off, then rolled over and went back to sleep. Turns out he was locked out of the house. He was very annoyed. He got our neighbor to give him a spare key and got in. Oh, that's funny. You did the right thing by rolling over and going back to sleep. Super chat from Andrew Peters. I know it's hard, but in addition to watching out for the usual groups that the left has traditionally stood up for, this time to also actively work on trying to bring white men, especially young white men, into the fold. Yeah, I suppose, but I mean, we have to be wary of trying to find a leftist or a Democrat way of doing what Republicans do. Like, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter saying, we need to come up with the leftist Joe Rogan. No, we don't. I mean, in the sense that we need to get better at messaging, and we need to get better at presenting the principles that we believe in as progressives in a way that attracts people who aren't actively involved right now. Yes, we have to do that. But the idea that we need to elevate some, reactionary douchebag, but is just a reactionary douchebag on our side instead of theirs, and that's I don't think that's a good strategy. Theo Magnusdahl, do you think Trump is going to give Ukraine to Putin? I don't think he's going to help Ukraine to continue putting up a fight. Yeah, I mean, Ukraine is not ours to give, so I can't say that Trump is going to give it to Putin. But no, I believe him when he says that he wants to stop supporting Ukraine, and that may be just as good as giving it to Putin. Isaiah Taylor says, as an autistic black man in Florida, I've transitioned into Battleship Enterprise D mode from yesterday's Enterprise. Am I overthinking it? Oh no, man. Whatever helps. Whatever gets you through, man. If that helps, I think that's fine. It's a good mentality, Laser Weldo 92. Will Wes Moore and the Maryland Democrats and Muriel Bowser too honestly protect my rights as a gay man when I move to Maryland? They had damn well better. Governor Moore just held a meeting today where he basically said that he did a sort of preliminary version of what Gavin Newsom is doing with the state legislature in California, which is, let's figure out what we can do within our own state borders to solidify our, principles and our laws, and to create the best defenses we can legislatively and legally against whatever Trump and the federal government may try to do. And part of that is protecting the rights of LGBTQ people. So if Wes Moore and the Maryland Democrats fail to do that, I'm going to be quite quite disappointed in them, because all indications are that they intend to try and do that. So I would say yes, provisionally. Hopefully, the answer to your question is yes. They will move to protect your rights as a gay man in Maryland. Ready Aim Singh says, how moderate do you think Dems will have to Republican in 2028 for workers to finally come out in droves for their next Bush Cheney coalition? Well, that's the thing. Like, they don't really come out for it, do they? I mean, I guess they'll just have to say, you know what, we're Republicans too. they'll have to actually do what a bunch of leftists accuse them of doing anyway, and just say, oh, they're basically just Republicans, which I don't agree with, and I think is a completely unfair thing to say. But it's out there. People think that. So maybe they'll just do that. Maybe they'll just say, actually, you know what, we'll be Republicans too. And then they'll still lose, and they'll wonder what the problem is. Buffy says, hi, Steve. What did you think about Tim Walz? I love him. I think he's great. I love him. And I think he would have been a great vice president. And it sucks. Kirak 2011 says, love that. Steve, will you accept donations from supporters, or do you expect to pay you outright? Well, if I'm being invited to speak to a group, I want cash in hand, buddy. I want money in my hand when I get there. Or, like Venmo it to me or send it to me in PayPal or something. But I want, whether it be virtually or literally, I want cash on the barrel head. You know what I'm saying? Stephen Clenard with a member message. Do you like sunflower seeds? I love them, but they're a pain in the ass. See you in hell. Yes, I do like sunflower seeds. I like sunflower, especially roasted ones. Although I like raw ones too. Actually, we when I was a kid, we grew sunflowers in my backyard. So there were a few years where we were able to get like fresh ones right out of the sunflower. They were great. I like sunflower seeds, but you're right, they are a pain in the ass. Donald Omnidon 2000 Sutton Jr. with a super chat. What about the buffoons Trump is surrounding himself with? Thanks for the work you do, Steve. Well, thank you for the super chat, Donald. I appreciate it. Well, yeah, that's the thing. I think that will be worse this time than it was last time, because last time the excuse that a lot of people made was, oh, calm down. It's not going to be that bad. Trump is going to surround himself with competent people. This time, I don't think that's going to happen. If you look at the people he's floating as possible appointees to his cabinet, they're like, where are the competent people? They're all buffoons. So yeah, I mean, we're in trouble. We're in trouble for that, not just for Trump, but for all the mini Trumps that he's going to be surrounding himself with. Fadeaway X with a super chat. Thank you very much. Says, I'm burned out on politics. Can you give me a moment of reprieve by describing in detail the best breakfast and supper you've had in recent memory? Well, here's the thing. During the week, I skip breakfast and I skip lunch. I have a protein shake I have nothing for breakfast. I have a protein shake for lunch, and then I have dinner, and dinner is usually something relatively small and simple. I do have breakfast on the weekends. My standard breakfast is 2, like those sort of McDonald's style hash browns, like the kind of square hash browns. Excuse me. The kind of square hash browns. I put 2 of those in the oven at 465 for 20 minutes or so, get them nice and crispy, flip them halfway through. And then I toast an everything bagel and cut it in half. And then I scramble some eggs, and I cook the eggs in egg rings. So they cook up nice and round, like you would get like at McDonald's or something. You get like the round eggs. And so I make an egg sandwich with the eggs and the bagel and a couple of slices of cheese in between the eggs, and cut that in half. And then I have my hash browns that are nice and crispy and hot and beautiful. And then I also make some toast out of multigrain bread, and put some butter on that and have that as well. And that's my breakfast. And that's my typical breakfast. And I really, really like that. I usually only have that on Saturdays. And sometimes if I'm feeling especially extravagant or I really want to treat myself, I may order breakfast. And instead of doing that, I may order breakfast from McDonald's. And when I order breakfast from McDonald's, it's almost always one of two things. It's either a sausage, egg, and cheese McMuffin with a hash brown and a cup of coffee, or I go big and I get the deluxe big breakfast with hotcakes, where it's 3 hotcakes and then it's that deconstructed sausage egg biscuit, where instead of just giving you a sausage and egg biscuit made as a sandwich, they give you the biscuit and the slice of egg and the sausage patty. You can either eat them separately or do what I do and just assemble them into the sausage and egg patty, into the sausage and egg sandwich, and eat it that way. And then, of course, the hash brown as well. So sometimes I get that. Or every once in a while, for a change of pace, I'll order breakfast from Burger King, and I'll get the sausage, egg, and cheese croissant and the hash browns. And of course, the hash browns in McDonald's or in Burger King breakfasts are like the little round tater tot kind of hash browns. So I get those, cup of coffee. If I'm feeling a little hungrier that morning, I might get like an order of hot cakes with maple syrup or some French toast sticks with maple syrup to dip them in. But I eat relatively light and relatively clean and healthy during the week. So on the weekends, especially Saturday, I like to treat myself, and I'll either cook something a little more extravagant at home than I normally would, or I will treat myself to some fucking fast food garbage. And that's what I like. Daryl Lett says, okay, Steve, what do you think Kamala should have done that she didn't? I think she should have come out against corporate welfare. That's the one issue that would unite 99% of people. I mean, Kamala herself as a candidate, I thought did fine. My general criticism for any Democratic politician, especially at the presidential level, and especially when they lose, is that she should have run further to the left. I think that it's ridiculous that Democrats are so terrified of running toward progressive issues. I think if you look at when Harris first stepped in for Biden, a lot of the enthusiasm surrounding her was based on the assumption that she would be a more progressive candidate than Biden would be. And in certain ways, she lived up to that. And in other ways, she went the exact opposite direction. Like, I think, Democrats, unfortunately, still have this bipartisan virus in their brains, or even with as broken and as beyond redemption as the Republican Party is, they still, like, if you dangle a Liz Cheney in front of them, it's like they can't help themselves. Like, oh, we can get Liz Cheney to endorse her, and then we can say that, look, even Republicans are voting for her. And like, that doesn't really get you all that much. Like, there are some Republicans who didn't want to vote for Trump, who voted for her this time. There were some people that did that, but apparently not very many. And usually there aren't that many. Where the votes are for the Democrats, the votes for the Democrats are almost always in places that they seem like they never want to look. The votes for Democrats are people who would vote for them, but don't vote. And instead of just writing them off and saying, well, those people don't vote, so we're not going to pay any attention to them, I feel like it would at least be worth giving it a shot to try and motivate those people to vote. And instead of looking at Republican victories and saying, how can we do what they did, which is, it seems like what the Democrats always do, again, at the presidential level. Whenever they lose a presidential race, they look at what the Republicans did and they say, how can we do that? As though that's the only way to win. What they should be doing is going back and looking at the times in the past when they won, when the Democrats won, and say, what did we do then that worked so well? And how can we translate that into today's environment? Because if you look at the most popular and successful Democratic presidents, even if they governed closer to the center than we would have liked them to, right? Like Barack Obama. Barack Obama, as a president, as a government official, was not super far to the left. He did tend to govern toward the middle. But his campaign rhetoric, his persona, the whole perception of him was that he was a progressive. He was a reformer. He was someone who was going to push the country into the future, right? He was a bold, hopeful choice. Whether or not he governed like that is a separate issue, but the perception of him was he was that guy, and he was an incredibly successful president in terms of his electoral victories, right? One of the greatest, most successful presidencies in the history of the United States, FDR. He did not govern toward the center. He was incredibly progressive. He was transformationally progressive. He changed this country in ways that will hopefully be permanent for the better in the direction of progress, like Social Security, the minimum wage, things that we take for granted now, progressive reforms that did not exist before Franklin Roosevelt and the Democrats who supported him in Congress. Lyndon Johnson, absolute nightmare of a president in terms of the Vietnam War, transformational domestically. Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act, Medicare, Medicaid. That's the result of Democrats thinking and acting like fucking Democrats and thinking big and going bold and saying, don't tell us we can't do this. We're going to make it happen. And if you tell us we can't do it, we're going to tell you why we should do it and convince you to help us do it. That's what the Democrats should be doing. That's not what they do. So they need to do more of that. And if Kamala Harris could have done more of that during her campaign, I don't know if she would have won or not. I don't know if anything would have made a difference. But I would have liked to have seen her try. Let me see here. A couple more super chats have come in as I was ranting. Stephen Clenard, fuck, marry, kill, ignore. Hotcakes, pancakes, griddle cakes, flapjacks. See you in hell. Let me see. Fuck hotcakes because you want it hot when you're fucking. Marry pancakes, obviously. Ignore griddle cakes because I have nothing particular against them, but we can put them to the side. And flapjacks, no. Flapjacks must die. You don't call first of all, it's either pancakes or hotcakes. Those are the options. If you call them flapjacks and you're not like a lumberjack, what are you doing with your life? They're not called that. Unless you're trying to be like an eccentric 1890s prospector or a stereotypical lumberjack. If you come into a diner and sit down and go, give me a stack of flapjacks, get out. Return to the cartoon from whence you came. And a super chat from Carlisle the Cinephile. My workplace has become an incredibly toxic cesspool since the election ended. I honestly don't feel safe there anymore. It's been less than a week and I'm already exhausted. I am so sorry to hear that. I wish that I knew what to tell you to help, but I don't know. That sucks. Oh, Jason's in the chat. I saw you there earlier. Did my best friend just admit to fucking hotcakes? I'm not admitting to anything. Well, does masturbating over them count as fucking them? I mean, I know that's like a sex act, but is that a fuck? Like I've never had like a stack of flapjacks. Look at me. Fuck me. I've never had a stack of hotcakes and like put my dick in the stack. Like I've never done that. I'm not a pervert. Okay. I'm not a pervert. I've never done that. But have I jacked off over a stack of hotcakes? Of course, who hasn't? Who has? I defy anyone to say that they've never done that. Anyone with a penis. Obviously, if you don't have a penis, you can't have actually, jerked off, unless we're using jerk off as like just sort of a general rhetorical way of describing any act of masturbation, which I'm fine with. Human language is fluid like that, much like the fluid that I ejaculated onto my hotcakes, which again, I don't think that counts as a fuck. I think that's a sex act. So it's as with everything else in life, I think it's a matter of interpretation. I hope that answers your question. Oh, Buffy, this is an interesting question. I'm a new subscriber. Steve, did you lose any subscribers post-election results like many political commentary comedy channels? I don't think I did. I got a text the day after Election Day. I won't say from who, but from a fellow YouTuber who has also done a lot of political content. And he said that his channel and other similar channels apparently lost like a few thousand subscribers after the election. I checked as soon as I saw that, and that has not been the case for me. No. So I'm not sure what the deal is with that, but no, I have not lost subscribers, nor have I really been gaining subscribers at a slower rate than I would have expected. The election result does not seem to have negatively affected my existing subscriber base or the rate at which I am adding subscribers. So hopefully that continues. A couple of people asking about Biden and using his immunity powers or Biden pardoning Hunter. It would really shock me if he did that. As CMAC said earlier in the chat, Biden is very much a traditionalist and an institutionalist, and it would really, really surprise me if he did that. Ace Shock says, have you watched the cartoon Doug before? A long time ago. I think like when Doug first came on, like in the 90s, and I remember it got really good reviews, and I watched it and thought it was fine. I never really got into it. But I think by the time Doug started, I was already well outside the target audience. Like I was not young enough when Doug started to really be the kind of viewer, be in the age group that really attached to it. So I mean, I thought it was fine, but I never really watched a lot of it. Jason says, so now the pervert doesn't know if fucking a hotcake is fucking a hotcake. If your dick was involved, then you were fucking it. Even if my dick never touched it? Are you fucking serious? Even if my dick never touched it, I'm still fucking it. Are you... So if what? So if I jack off in someone's open mouth, but I never actually touch them, that counts as like a blowjob? Is that what you're saying? Do you fucking hear yourself? Outrageous. CMAC Dollamore has lost a bunch. I'm not saying that the text I got was from Dollamore. I'm not saying that. Dragonfire Gaming says, I'm scared for Britain because of the inevitable trade war via Trump's tariffs and the fact that the prime minister currently wants to be chummy with Trump. I get self-preservation, prime minister, but still. Yeah, I mean, I completely get that. I completely get that. I'm just scrolling back to look for 255 AD's last question. And I'm not seeing it, and I'm not going to look forever. So if it's that important, post it again. Carlisle Cinephile with a super chat. Bro, you're not beating those pancakes allegations. Accept it. See, this is why I'm never going to run for office. Oh, Jason says, so what have we learned? That Steve goes to jail whenever he visits an IHOP. Aha! I don't go to IHOP. Checkmate. I order on Grubhub from IHOP. They bring it to my house. And then in the privacy of my home, I can do whatever I want to them pancakes. Michael Handeline says, Steve, are your Facebook friends all actual friends? I follow you on Facebook, but can never comment on your posts because we're not friends, which is fine if that's how it is. Just curious. No, they're not all actual friends. No, a lot of them aren't. I guess if you sent me a friend request, I would approve it. I mean, I'm not like a super stickler about it. I feel like you're a familiar enough person to me now that I would approve a friend request. No, not all of my Facebook friends are personal friends. Most of them aren't. Most of them I could give two shits about. Oh, Boxy Brown says, holy shit, Steve is nearing 300K. Yes, I am. Thank you for noticing. Subscribers, by the way. Isaiah Taylor says, thoughts on the TNG episodes Clues and First Contact. I like them both, especially Clues. I think Clues is a really, really good episode. First Contact is interesting and deals with some cool ideas and explores like an interesting problem that you could imagine people in Star Trek having, like when a first contact situation comes up unexpectedly because like, oh, by the way, we've been spying on you. Sorry. Hope you're not mad. Like that's an interesting premise. It's a good episode, but I think Clues is a really good episode. I really like Clues a lot. 255 AD's question. Is it okay that I hate America? Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. Dana's got it. Steve would never run for office because that would involve spending time around people. There's that. And there's just the fact that I have no personal interest in it. And like life's too short for me to be doing things that I don't have to do that I have no interest in. You know? Stephen G. Clenard, thank you very much. If jerking off to breakfast food is wrong, I don't want to be right. You and me both. Azalea, yeah, you've been with me for a while, haven't you? I remember when Steve was like 55K. Me too. Pretty cool. Michael, I think you should be able to send me friend requests. I still get them from time to time. I'm not sure what the deal is with that. Oh, Fadeaway X, you can eat pancakes again. Look, just because, you know, I routinely perform sex acts involving pancakes, it doesn't mean that you have to. You can eat them if you want. I hear most people do that. Well, some people. I know there's a certain cohort of people that eat the pancakes instead of performing sex acts involving them. Theo Magnus, now you should make a list of the most fuckable breakfast foods. Yeah, I should do that and then have people, you know, see it and completely not get that it was a joke based on this weird tangent that I went off on a live stream. And then all of a sudden it's like, you know, he fucks breakfast foods, right? Jason says, we cleared up your pancake abuse. Now, what about waffles? Well, I mean, waffles have those little cells that hold the jizz so nicely. You know, it doesn't run off like it can on the pancake. Kato Hukubi with a super chat. So when you poke the Pillsbury Doughboy, you aren't using your finger. Anything I do to the Pillsbury Doughboy is totally consensual. I just want that to be made perfectly clear. A Shock says, ever been to Waffle House? Oh my God. There are like 3 Waffle Houses that are close enough to my house right now that I could throw a rock and hit all 3 of them. Yes, I love Waffle House. I am a long-time dedicated Waffle House patron. Yes, Seth, exactly. Just because Steve prefers a special glaze on his pancakes, that doesn't mean you have to. Exactly. And, CMAC is right, too. Pancakes are silkier than griddle cakes. Although for what I use them for, that doesn't make a difference. Because as I made clear to Jason earlier, I don't stick my dick in the stack of pancakes. The silkiness, it makes a difference in terms of mouthfeel when eating the pancakes. But, in the sexual context, it doesn't really make a difference because I personally do not touch the pancakes. That's just me. Other people may do it differently. Kara says, what did we say about the sex jokes? Can we stop, pretty please? I never said anything about the sex jokes, Kara. But I suppose if it makes Kara uncomfortable, we can stop with the breakfast sex jokes. That's fine. Anyway. Yeah, Vic, you're going to end up on a list. Yep. CMAC, good point. Too much friction with waffles. Okay, we're done. Plasma Burn Death says, sorry I'm late. Did anyone ask how things are going to be okay when Trump and GOP are saying they will put us in camps? We'll get rid of FDA, NOAA, take apart EPA, DOJ. I mean, I think it's going to be just a matter of trying to get through the next 4 years and putting roadblocks in his way as much as we can. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be easy. There's a reason why we all said before the election, oh my God, don't vote for him. We absolutely cannot let this happen. Fadeaway X says, Steve, you said you eat clean. Do you work out too? I recently started lifting again at 44 and have noticed that joints and tendons definitely have a best before date. I don't work out like seriously. I don't go to a gym or anything like that. I do morning like calisthenics and some workouts with relatively light dumbbells in the morning during the week. Nothing too rigorous or hardcore. Like I do, push-ups and crunches and ab rollouts with an ab wheel and planks and 100 total bicep curls with dumbbells. I do 50 supinated curls like that, and then 50 hammer curls like that. So like nothing super intense, just enough to stay in reasonable shape and hopefully stay healthy. And then also I either do an hour on a stationary bike or do a 10,000 step walk every day during the week for cardio. So yes, I suppose in the broad sense I work out, but I'm not like a serious like gym guy or anything. I, with a super chat, says, I don't know if you addressed this, but how much of this do you put on Russia between bankrolling Musk, buying Twitter, Tim Pool, their bots, etc.? I mean, I don't think that it's completely responsible. And I feel like it's passing the buck to say, well, it was the Russians and it was Elon Musk and it was their interference. Like I think it probably had an effect, but I don't think it's mostly their fault. I think it's still mostly our fault. 2D5 AD says, is that too harsh? Nope. Opinion. Jason says, funny how your girlfriend as Steve the Hunchback has been described as a stack of pancakes. Yes, but not by my character. By your character. By your character. My character would never describe his girlfriend like that. You're the one who describes her as a stack of pancakes, as lunch meat, I believe is a popular description. You can't blame me for that, and you can't draw any conclusions about that, okay? Because that's all on you, buddy. And in fact, the whole reason we started talking about fucking breakfast foods was because actually it was Stephen G. Clenard's fault. But then you took it, Jason, and you ran with it, so I'm blaming you. Dana says mouthfeel is a sexual context, Steve. Well, thank you for picking up on the joke I was making. I knew I could count on you. Let's see. you, you mean when you feel something with your mouth? Yes, exactly. Dana, yeah, I work out every day. Okay, first of all, Dana, you have no room to give me shit about this because you actually, I don't leave the house when I work out. I have my bike and my weights and my push-up board. All my stuff is like in the house. I work out in my living room. You go to the YMCA like every day. You get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning so you can go to the YMCA and work out before you go to work where you teach at a public school. So how dare you try to score points on me for working out every day when you work out and in a much more dedicated way than I do. Fadeaway X says the ab wheels are no joke. It can be pretty hard, yeah. But I mean, I guess because I've been doing it long enough, it's no longer like it's still obviously it's still a little bit of a challenge. You don't want it to be easy because then you're not really getting any benefit from it. And the nice part about an ab wheel is you can kind of control your own resistance. Like the further out you go and then pull yourself back in like that, it creates more of a resistance and more challenge. So I'm kind of at that stage with it where I'm stretching out further than I used to because I realize I can do that now and it's more of a workout. So yeah, they can be, and I mean, obviously if I only do, I do 100 of those too, in two sets of 50. So I'm not doing them like, it's not like I'm doing, ab rollouts for like an hour straight, I'm not killing myself doing it, but yeah, it can be a workout for sure. Jason says Steve works out like he lives in a care facility. I would love to see one of those old people living in a care facility do a solid uninterrupted hour on a stationary bike at the pace I do it, at the resistance level that I do it, or take a walk for 10,000 steps at the brisk pace that I go without ever stopping or slowing down, because that's me, buddy. You find me an old person at a care facility who can do that, and I will buy them tapioca pudding for the rest of the month. Stephen G. Clenard, correct. It was a wise man who observed that it's fun to stay at the YMCA. Yes, indeed. Seth Jones says, are you worried that the new administration will ban your preferred type of breakfast-based love? I live in fear of it every moment of my life. Yeah, but Fadeaway X, it's only during the week. It's only during the week. On the weekends, I don't do shit. Actually, sometimes like this past Sunday, because it was a really nice day and I didn't have anything else to do, after I think it was in the morning. It was before we recorded our podcasts, and it was a beautiful day. So I went for a walk, and I did like a 7-mile walk, just because I had the opportunity to. But I mean, usually I don't work out at all on the weekends. Yeah, Kara says, so your Peloton stage fitness. I mean, I'm not a member of Peloton. My bike isn't a Peloton. Like I don't usually when I'm on the bike, usually to pass the time, I watch a movie while I'm biking, or if wrestling was on the night before, I'll watch wrestling, or I would watch something on TV while I'm doing my hour on the bike, just to have something to do to distract me from the fact that I'm riding a bike for the equivalent of like 20 miles or something. Randy Alina says, when am I getting a Killing Joke episode? You mean of my Best Batman Ever series? Well, I mean, it's on my list. I haven't done it yet, but it's on my list. I'll do it at some point. There is going to be, I believe, I finished writing it today, and I think I'm going to shoot it tomorrow. There is going to be a best Superman ever video next week. I haven't decided what the next best Batman ever video will be or when it will be. But the Killing Joke is going to get in there sometime because I love the Killing Joke, the comic, not the animated movie. Heather A says, "Do you think this will be the last election?" Trump said, "If he wins this election, you'll never have to vote again." Someone asked a similar question earlier. I honestly don't know. I hope not. I hope that we have another election in 2 years and then in 4 years. I honestly don't know. Theo Magnusdahl says, "Did you watch ERB of Trump versus Harris?" Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I liked it up until they did the Teddy Roosevelt fly, and I did not think that was necessary. I did not think that was helpful to try and act like, oh, you both have things to be embarrassed about, so now here comes Teddy to read you both the riot act. Like, not this time. Not this time. Buffy says, "Thoughts on Penguin, the TV series?" I really like it. I really like it. Kara Hughes says, "You don't agree with the fridged woman concept." I mean, I don't approve of it. It's clearly a trope in fiction, but I think it's a very bad trope. But no, I've really liked the Penguin a lot. I really liked it a lot. Petrick says, "As a Canadian who feels the impact of the result alongside 85% of the rest of the world and has minimal power to do anything of real value to change things, what can we do to help?" Petition your government to make it easier for Americans to move there. All right. It's past 8 o'clock here for me. Yeah, Seal 0626. That was my problem with it. The ERB was both sidesy. And I mean, like, no. Dalek 97 says, "Do you read the ongoing Star Trek comics from IDW?" Not anymore. I used to read the when the Star Trek ongoing series was the one that was based on the Kelvin timeline movies. And I think Mike Johnson was writing it. I liked that a lot. I read every issue of that. I thought that was great. I read the first issue of the new one, the one that they started like last year, where it's like, you know, Cisco comes back from the wormhole and he's the captain of a new ship that was designed by Scotty, and the crew is like randomly selected people from. I hated it. It was like reading fan fiction. I read it and I was like, this is definitely not for me. And I haven't. Yeah, so no, I don't read them anymore, but I used to. And historically, up until they took this particular direction they've been taking, I actually thought the IDW Trek comics were very good. Okay, I was about to wrap things up, and then I saw a couple more questions in the live chat that I wanted to get to. So before we go, and if you have any final questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and I'll come back for a quick scan before we sign off. But before I wrap things up, I just want to remind everybody, first of all, don't forget charitylinks.page, which Some Random Geek was here earlier and reminded us all of. Some Random Geek maintains a list of GoFundMe links and PayPal links and other various ways that you can send money to friends of ours who need a helping hand financially, who are in a little bit of a struggle helping to pay the bills. And if you find yourself having a few extra bucks and you want to put them toward a good cause to help individuals who need help, charitylinks.page is a great way to do that. It is linked in the description of this video, or you can just type in charitylinks.page and it'll take you right there. Now, as for me, if you want to support my channel, you can do that in a couple of ways. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives and become a patron, or you can click the join button right here on the YouTube page and become a channel member. And if you do that, either one of those, one of the benefits that you can take advantage of is you can submit questions ahead of time for these Ask Away live streams. The first questions I answer are always the questions that I have gotten ahead of time by my patrons and my channel members. And you get the opportunity to submit a question early for Ask Away for any level of support, from $1 a month on up to however much you think I'm worth. So click the join button to become a member, or Patreon.com/Steve Shives. Your support really helps me out, enables me to continue doing this. As has been mentioned a few times during the stream tonight, this is my full-time job. I do this to pay the bills, to put food on the table. So anybody who enjoys my work and wants to help me continue to do it in a direct financial way, there you go. Patreon.com/Steve Shives, or click the join button. Or if you want to make a one-time gift, obviously you can always throw a super chat in, as many of you have. Thank you very much, during a live stream like this. Or you can use the thanks button, or you can send me a little gift through PayPal or Venmo, and links for those are in the video description as well. Also, don't forget, if you enjoy my YouTube stuff, I'm on a couple of awesome podcasts that are created and hosted by the great Jason Harding, aka Opinionville, who has been with us in the chat tonight. The first is Late Seating, the movie review podcast that I'm on alongside Jason, where we take a look at classic films and see if they deserve whatever their reputation is, whether it's good or bad. Our most recent review is of the classic film, one of my favorite films, an absolute masterpiece in every way, The Night of the Hunter. So if you want to hear me gush over how awesome I think The Night of the Hunter is, then that'll be a good episode for you to listen to. And also, in addition, I am a member of the cast of the Ensign's Log, the Star Trek-themed comedy podcast that I am on alongside Jason and our very own DanaCole, who is in the chat with us, and now our newest regular cast member, Ananda, who will be with us as a regular fixture from now on as well. And we play original characters who are living in the Star Trek universe. We are living on Deep Space Nine, and we are having our own adventures and telling our own stories while the events of Star Trek episodes kind of happen off in the background. And it's a really fun show, and we love making it. And if you are a Star Trek fan and you give it a listen, I hope you'll enjoy it. And especially if you enjoy comedically oriented Star Trek stuff, I think you'll enjoy the Ensign's Log. So links in the description for the podcasts. Check them out. And that is really all I wanted to tell you. So let me have a look at the live chat real quick before we go. Oh, Randy Alina just became a $5 a month level member. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. CMX says, I really appreciated your words early, genuinely. And I do consider you a friend, parasocial and all. I the feeling is mutual, buddy. And even though I jack off on pancakes, for, I mean, not really. Like, everybody understands that, right? Not really. It was just a gag. See, it was just for fun. It was just for shits and gigs, right? Everybody gets that, right? Okay, we're clear on that. But yes, thank you. CLO626 says, I'm so far behind on the Ensign's Log. Well, that's okay, because it's not going anywhere. So you can keep catching up as you are able to. Matthew says, thanks for the break from the world. You are welcome, my friend. Heidi Theringer says, do you think people will regret voting for Trump? Some of them might, but fat lot of good it'll do. Buffy says, are you friends with Wheezy Waiter? No, I don't think I have any idea who that is. Ace Shock says, have a good night, everyone. Thank you for making my first time in the chat informative, comforting, and fun. Please be safe, and thanks for the AEW chat. Well, you're welcome. Thanks for asking a wrestling question. I always appreciate the wrestling questions. Ard to Andel, the better part of waking up is Steve Spunk in your cup. Is that how the jingle goes? I would never do that. I would never do that. Unless there is like a tiny stack of hotcakes in that cup. And then you just try and stop me. All right, that's it, everybody. Thank you very much. I'm going to call it a night on that note. I appreciate all the questions. I appreciate all the super chats. I appreciate all the attention and all the support. Thank you so, so, so much. Please stay strong. Please don't lose heart. We've got a long road ahead of us. It's going to suck a lot of the time, but there's no reason to lose hope. There's a million billion reasons to keep fighting as hard as we can. All is not lost, even though it might feel that way sometimes. So hang in there. Please take care of yourselves. please take a break if you need to. Remember your own well-being. Remember the well-being of your friends and your family and those close to you. And just hang in there. We're all in this together. And I'm not going anywhere, and hopefully neither are any of you. So we'll get through this. That's it. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. I'll see you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.